Okay, if we can't establish a quorum, all are present and accounted for. First item of business is the approval of the agenda. To have a motion to review the agenda for approval.
Motion.
A motion by Alderman Rector. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Cates. Gentlemen, under the discussion, I would ask that you remove, I left my notes, a resolution on the solid waste 60 or 61? 1961. Again, I'd sent some information on this. This actually is not up for renewal until January 2021. The resolution you passed a few months ago was actually for this coming January, which would be the final year on this contract. With that, I'll open up for any other discussion needed.
Yes, one of my items is not on the agenda.
Okay.
I had unfinished business that was supposed to be on here. I understand you sent me an email saying that you had complaints that unfinished business was on there. And I didn't respond to that. I figure if we've talked about it and it ain't done, then it's been on record.
Okay, I guess the confusion was because you followed with an email with another topic, so have assumed at that point that you were just adding that topic and dropping the other. But so I've got a request to remove. Goodness, I hate being so unorganized. I apologize. To remove 1961 and then add to the discussion items unfinished business.
I'd like to know why it ain't. Who makes the agenda?
Well, I approve the agenda. Ms. Bullard actually keys it in.
Ms. Bullard, did you have unfinished business on the agenda?
I asked the mayor if I was supposed to put it on there because we had someone to make mention that they would prefer unfinished business not to be on the agenda for the simple fact that they felt the board, all the board members needed to know what the unfinished business was going to be discussed.
I think the board members would fully be aware of what unfinished business hadn't been done in the town. They were here during the meetings when the business was discussed. And are those complaints, I'd like a copy of those complaints. They should be public record, especially if they're on me. I think I'm due them. So please forward those complaints to me and let me know who that was and tell them if they need to talk to me. I'll be glad to give them my phone number. It's 731-413-7208. You can put that in the paper.
Okay, any other discussion on the agenda for this evening?
731-4, Harrison's got it, 413-7208.
Okay. Any other discussion on the agenda? Have a motion to approve the two changes to the agenda?
What line item are you putting unfinished business on? The front, top, bottom, middle?
It would be discussion item because there's no resolution or paperwork that goes with it.
I want everybody to keep in mind the charter. The charter directs that a board member can put something on the agenda. It clearly states that if they do that, not in the week that we're trying to do to have it easy, but in a matter of days for that to be on there. And if a board member requests that, I don't think there's any exclusions for that not to be on there. And I'd like to caution whoever's responsible for that they need to follow the charter.
Well, Mr. Sutton has stated when you followed up with no response in another item, I misinterpreted it. So I guess that would be my downfall for not responding and asking you if you were removing. But there is the Public Information Act that does request that specific things be on the agenda so the public can see it. At this point, it's not necessary to argue it out. You've made a motion to add it to the agenda, so unless the rest of the board has an issue with it, we'll move forward and it won't be a problem this evening.
With that said, add that onto the agenda.
Discussion items? Okay, so I just need, unless there's something else to be added or removed, I just need a motion to make the two amendments to the agenda that was presented.
I make the motion to approve the agenda as amended, deleting resolution 1961 and adding unfinished business.
Okay, so I've got a motion by Vice Mayor Sutton to amend the agenda. Do I have a second?
I got a question before we vote.
Okay.
I got this email to check this out, that we'd be voting on it tonight. And it don't say anything about 1961. I pulled it off the internet, it says 961, and I couldn't find that anywhere.
I miskeyed when I sent this, and what I was telling you was it was going to be, I was gonna ask to remove it from the agenda, and so I just miskeyed it when I sent this
just
trying
didn't
to
know. I've
inform.
been looking everywhere for it, and I couldn't find it, 'cause that would've been 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay, no, it was just a miskey by me. I mean, please feel free to respond all to an email like that if you don't see something, and be glad to clear it up. Okay,
I'll second.
okay, so I've got a second by Alderman Rector. All in favor of amending the agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Now, all in favor of accepting the amended agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the agenda is set. Next would be the reading and correction of the minutes. Do I have a motion to review for approval the minutes from the October 17th regular meeting?
Motion made.
Motion by Alderman Cates. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Rector. Any discussion needed?
Call for vote.
All in favor of accepting the minutes as presented signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Does pass unanimously. Next item would be special call meeting. Do I have a motion to review for approval the minutes from the November 7th special call meeting?
Make a motion.
Motion by Alderman Cates. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Duncan. Any discussion?
Call for vote.
All in favor of accepting the minutes as presented signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Minutes are approved unanimously, and we will continue forward. Excuse me. Next item on the agenda are citizens' comments. This is a time as a citizen you can be heard. If you care to be heard, please step forward, state your name, where you live, and there's a 3-minute limit per citizen.
Evening, gentlemen. Russ Emily, Villages of Riverwood. I would just ask the board here to give some consideration that when a citizen comes up here with a complaint or a concern, that if it's not rectified by the next meeting, that it go under old business or new business or old business, whatever where you want to put it. But this way, people see that something, if it's not done, it's not being thrown off to the side. Case in point, I know for months now, people have been asking for a list of streets going to be paved. It hasn't happened. People want to know when they're going to hit the lottery in their neighborhood. So, when are the citizens going to see when their streets are going to be done? So that would go under old business. That's all I got. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Emily. Anyone else care to be heard this evening?
Tim Goodrow, Northwood Estates. On the agenda tonight is the In God We Trust resolution, national motto. I appreciate your courage to take up this issue. I hope that that courage will be followed up with the courage to pass it unanimously. If you read the Fat Falcon or attend the county commission meetings on which I sit, you know that I'm a strong supporter of our national motto. In God We Trust has been affirmed and reaffirmed by the U.S. House, the U.S. Senate, federal courts, and even our Tennessee House and Senate. As our national motto, and thus may be displayed by federal, state, and local governments on public property. Many counties and cities across this country and across the state have done just that. noticed that the sheriff is displaying this national motto on his squad car now. Our national motto represents our patriotism and our American values, and has done so for scores of years. If you pass this resolution tonight, you will be the first governmental body that I'm aware of in this entire county to officially affirm the national motto and display it, support the display of it in a resolution form. That's big, especially in our centennial year. I don't know why it hasn't been done before now by this county or any municipality in it. I encourage you to not only show the Fayette County Commission, but the remainder of the municipalities in this county how it's done. I presented this resolution 2 months ago to the county commission, and it has not been resolved yet. It's astonishing to me. So you'll be the first if it happens tonight in this entire county. And my prayer is that with y'all, and hopefully the county commission next week, that this will spread across our county, and our county, and unanimously, as municipalities, be one unit in supporting and reaffirming our national motto. Show how simple it is to affirm and display publicly our great national motto, "In God we trust." Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Goodrow.
Thank you.
Anyone else care to be heard this evening? Okay, we'll go ahead and continue forward. Agenda item number 6, communications from the mayor. As always, it's great to see citizens here participating in your local government, so thank you for taking the time to come out tonight. Just want to thank the chamber. Unfortunately, it looks like they've not made it yet for the State of the Town address yesterday. I tell you, it was heartwarming to see the activity center packed full. They even had to pull a couple extra tables out of businesses and citizens there to go through that, so I thank them for that. As far as Mr. Emily, as far as the streets go, I don't recall having a specific request to know what streets were being paved, but I will tell you, as we discussed earlier, there's a public information. They can come up and put in an information request and get the contract for the road maintenance, any of that information. So it definitely is available.
I know Mr. Sutton's brought it up numerous times.
Well, the board passed the contract, and so they had the streets that were being paved, and they had all of that information. But I'm just saying, any citizen that wants to get it can come up and make the request for that contract that includes it. Just so you understand, there is a process to get it if it's not discussed in this boardroom. Commissioner Goodrow, I appreciate your comments, and I don't argue with anything that you said, so thank you. Just want to let the board know, last month there was a request for a GPS route of the company that handles our mosquito abatement program. Got it to the owner of the company the week after the board meeting. He has been out of town on business. He told me that he will get it, so I expect to have it before the next board meeting. I will forward it out to the board as soon as I get that. I have not received it at this time. And then last and definitely not least is I just want to wish the board, our attorney, our staff, and of course all the citizens a warm and wonderful and safe Thanksgiving as it comes up. I just pray everyone is very careful as we get into the holidays, but really enjoy it and take that time to enjoy the family time. So with that, I will move on to the next agenda item, which will be agenda item number 7, reports from the department heads. First would be code and planning. Mr. Owens had some oral surgery today, so Mr. Quinn is presenting for him and representing code and planning this evening.
the month of October, building department had 11 site inspections, 24 rough and plumbing inspections, 26 sewer inspections, 32 sheathing inspections, 28 brick tie inspections, 30 hole down inspections, 29 top out inspections, 30 rough gas inspections, 30 mechanical temp inspections, 41 framing inspections, a slab inspection, a deep seal inspection, a backflow inspection, and a footing inspection, 56 final plumbings, 40 final gas inspections, 43 final mechanical inspections, and 50 certificate of occupancy inspections. The office addressed 16 sign issues, 36 mud in the street and silt fence issues, 3 drainage issues, 10 grass issues, 4 porta potty issues, 13 trash and debris issues, 51 notices were issued, and 51 came into compliance.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Quinn this evening?
So thank you,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen.
thank you.
All right, continue forward. Next is Public Works. Mr. Ellis was unable to be here this evening, and Jenna Arnold will be his representative tonight.
Good afternoon.
In the last month, we have treated 25.5 million gallons of wastewater. We treated 33.3 million gallons of water. We had 4 new taps installed, 721 late notices went out, and 54 customers on the cutoff list. And that is all he gave me.
All right.
I understand Mr. Owens had a tooth pulled. Was the reason for Mr. Ellis giving him not being here?
Mr. Owens actually had a root canal this afternoon. Mr. Ellis is out for a different reason. He's got a major family event going on tonight and tomorrow night, which is why he's not present.
My biggest concern is the number of things on the agenda, and my concern is, I know Ms. Jenna works in the water department, could probably answer some questions there, but the street paving, I don't see where she would be very good at that. The questions that's on the agenda, and some
I also have some stuff on there too from Mr. Ellis.
trash service and other things on the agenda. Seems like he would have sent a representative. That, again, you know, just thinking about that charter and what it represents, and it talks about that, about department heads or representatives and being able to answer the questions for the board. And it's just, things get prolonged and prolonged and prolonged if you're not able to find that information out. And, I mean, we'll try it. I'll ask, and maybe you can answer it. But it just seems like with the agenda, he would have people here that could answer the questions with the stuff that's on the agenda, for sure.
It's nothing personal to
Oh,
you,
no,
Miss
no, no,
Jenna.
no.
But to me, he should have had a supervisor here.
Right.
Cause I had talked to him once before, a couple of weeks ago about something. He told me something he could do. Well, I've got 2 or 3 items on here that I need answers to. And you probably don't even wanna know or don't even wanna get involved in it.
No.
It's about trash.
Hopefully I'll be able to answer them, but unfortunately, his 2 supervisors had issues or reasons where they couldn't be here this evening, because we did discuss that, and unfortunately, schedules and family being out of town have just kind of dictated where we're at, but I'm hopeful that I'm prepared enough to answer your questions.
I don't mean it disrespectful, but I had as good excuse as any of them to not be here tonight, but I made it.
Well, and I appreciate that, Alderman Cates, most definitely do. Okay, thank you. All right, next will be Parks and Recreation, Mr. Mullen.
Good evening, gentlemen. We had senior bingo and luncheon on November the 7th, Thanksgiving theme. The luncheon was catered by 11 Fresh here in Oakland. We had 66 seniors in attendance. We wrapped up our fall soccer league on November the 2nd. We ended with a hot dog celebration. We only had one game that was completely rained out. Each team finished with 6 of the 7 games that we have scheduled. I got an update to the Christmas gingerbread house contest. The contest has been moved. It will be staged at the Festival of Trees location, which is next to Maurice's. It's gonna go from, which is over there by Walmart. It's gonna be on, December the 5th through the 14th. Judging will take place on the 11th, and the winners will be announced on the 14th, which is also the day of the parade. And I'd like to make another announcement that if anybody would select to enter the parade as a float, we need your applications in by no later than December the 2nd. The Parks and Rec Advisory Board has been working on some sports and activity ideas for the youth ages 13 and up. They discussed a wide range of ideas. We actually had a meeting on Tuesday night, a special call meeting to wrap up some of the things that we've been talking about. Some of those ideas, we're still working on some dates and some times for these, but we're gonna have a game night in January. We're gonna have a painting class in February, and we're gonna do a job interview resume builder class in March or April. That will be open basically to all ages, so that they're getting time that we're, close to graduating and things like that. But it also helps at age 13 to kind of start learning how to talk to adults and things like that. So we're gonna put some dates and times on those, but those are 3 ideas that they've come up with kind of in between the sports seasons. Another couple things that I'd like to mention. We're also going to be doing a Christmas Village on the day of the parade from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. over at the Oakland Activity Center. What we're going to be doing is we're going to have different stations set up. The 3 main stations they decided on is the craft table. We're going to have a cookie walk, and we're going to make Christmas cards for seniors. We're also going to have a photo booth with Santa Claus, so the kids can come and take pictures of Santa. Just an activity that all families can come to. We don't know how big it's going to be, but we got to start somewhere, so we're going to see kind of how this works out. We also have a referee clinic that we had decided on. The Parks and Rec Board decided on Tuesday. We're going to do it over 4 sessions over the month of January. The first session is going to be on January 21st at 6:30 p.m. Our chairman of the Parks and Rec Board, Gary Schmidt, will be the instructor, and that will be taking place at the Activity Center. But the purpose of that is to try to help with our soccer referees and get more people involved for this next spring season to be involved with our referees and help that referee situation. And then on Monday, we've already put up a flagpole down at the Cypress Creek Park. We're going to raise the flag on Monday, and we're also going to bury the time capsules that we purchased and took items from West Junior High and Oakland Elementary. And we plan to bury those at 11 a.m. on Monday at Cypress Creek Park. Any questions?
I don't have a question, but I want to commend you, Brandon. I was at that meeting and impressed of the ideas, and I'm also impressed that you take a recommendation from the board at last month's meeting and put it into motion. And everything may not be finalized, but I'm happy to see things that's put into motion, and I absolutely am tickled to death with what I saw at the board meeting and the actions you've taken from last month, and I just want to thank you for your hard work in that.
I appreciate that, and I've got some great people on that board that are really bringing some thought-provoking ideas to help us make Parks and Rec better.
Brendan, is that gonna include football referees too, or just soccer?
Well, with this being our next sports season is soccer, we're gonna start with soccer, and then we'll move forward. When we get to football, we'll do football as well, because
So it will go all the way through the sport? not
that's
just-
what the plan is.
Okay.
Because Gary is a professional referee, a Division I referee, so he's good knowledge.
All right, anything else for Mr. Mullins this evening?
Yes, the Christmas parade, unfortunately, on last year, we don't control the weather.
Right.
It's a possibility, and plus, to traffic, to shut down the whole town, got a route.
Right. Well, part of this Christmas Village is to kind of, if we have any kind of weather issues, it's sort of a pre-backup plan. So we wanted to have something still that could be inside, but if everything works out and we have the parade, we'll have the parade. But if we don't, if we're rained out or have another major weather issue, the plan is to have the float stationed on Monday at West Junior High, and we'll vote on the floats and hand out the trophies, and then try to find a way to incorporate some hot chocolate and cookies over there. But that's the plan. The plan will be that on that Monday.
Okay, because you used the word if. You did.
Say what?
You used the word if.
If.
Oh, okay.
If weather, not the backup plan.
Oh, okay.
So do we have a backup plan to have the Christmas parade?
The basically what the backup plan would be is to have the floats go. We would have them on Monday at West Junior High. And we would judge the floats, because that was one of the biggest things last year was people were upset that they spent the time to work on the floats and we didn't have the judging on it.
We had a lot of complaints because it wasn't a parade, and I thought we all agreed that it would be a backup date this year for that. If you couldn't, if you did it on the 14th, and it was something drastic that you couldn't do it on the 14th, move it to the next weekend or something. I mean, I thought the board and even the mayor agreed that we would have a backup plan for that.
Well, we felt that because from the 14th forward, everyone around us was having something every weekend up until Christmas. And we just felt like if we met at West, we'd still be able to preview the floats, we'd still be able to have some fellowship within the community without having to block traffic on 64, or potentially block it for a second time.
You're gonna have some upset citizens, because look what we got last year.
Well, that's if we have weather issues, so hopefully we won't have that problem.
I know you don't have control over the weather, but we do have control over a backup date to have a parade. We do have that control.
Okay. Anything else this evening? Thank you, sir. Continuing forward, Police, Chief Earl.
These are the stats from October 7th through November 10th. Issued 487 citations, 129 warnings were given, 68 offense reports, 10 arrests, 312 calls for service. Of the arrests, we had 1 drug arrest, 2 DUIs, 1 assault, 4 theft, and 2 traffic. It's an update on our field take back that we had on October the 26th. So, from the 2 collection sites, along with the barrel that we have out here in the hallway, we have collected 240 pounds of prescription drugs, turned over to DEA. The only thing I have left is, there's been a lot of talk about the tragedy that occurred in our town last week. I'm referring to the hit and run fatality that happened on Highway 64. It's an open investigation, so we can't really talk about it, but it was a subject that was arrested and charged. The victim was employed at the Paul restaurant. Close friends of the victim are trying to put some kind of funeral burial arrangements together. I don't really have anything on that. If anybody knows something about that, they could weigh in on it. I know there was maybe some problems with that. Anybody know anything about it?
I think one of the banks in Oakland had set up some kind of fund
Okay.
that was taking money, and that's what I was told at church Sunday. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I'm not sure. I
Well,
thought maybe somebody would know.
Yeah, what it is a number of the restaurants in Oakland have bins out for you to donate money, or you can actually make a donation directly at the Bank of Fayette County. They do have the account that they're putting it into, so either method will work.
Have any questions?
No, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, next would be Fire, Chief Walls.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Start out with some statistics. Fire department responded to 107 calls of need. 2 of these fire, 1 hazmat, 81 emergency medical services, 7 service calls, 14 good intent, and 2 false calls. We got a lot of stuff going on right now on projects. I think one of the most important is implementation of our paramedic response level. I am going to brag a little bit on Fayette County EMS just a second. They're implementing a program which this will allow us to get involved in on a sepsis protocol or septic shock protocol. I think this is probably one of the biggest killers of people that autopsies have shown, well, you die from this or this, but now they're finding out that people die from septic shock, where you get a simple cut, you get an infection, your body builds antibodies, and boom, you die. It's becoming just as important time element on what's done for this patient, if this patient's going to survive, or the quality of life they're going to have afterwards. The ambulance services actually gonna start giving antibiotics early in the field while the patient's being transported to the hospital. If they can get these antibiotics started within 30 minutes sooner, the chance of the patient being able to keep their limbs or surviving increases dramatically. So that's an exciting thing. I really congratulate Dr. Birch, the ambulance service, and I'm excited that we're gonna be involved in this at a level. This Saturday, we have, all-day training out here behind the, or next to this, the pond down here. I don't know really what to call it, but, next to the water plant. We're kind of excited about that. It's gonna be an all-day event. We have some people coming in to participate with us. We also, got the ATV in. We're in the process at this point of drawing up the standard operating procedures, which we already have those done, but the training, to get this done. We just don't wanna, equip it and put it out without proper safety training. So we're looking at the U.S. Forestry Department. They have some programs. FS has some training programs, so we're gonna do a qualification packet, just like we do for a pumper operator that's gonna drive a fire engine, has to hit these benchmarks and cover that. Our traffic signal, out here on 64, been working with a number of companies, and they all gave me different reasons, and I never dreamed that there were different reflective surfaces and all this on these signs besides lighting them up. But after talking with them, I think, I'm in the process now of drawing up a bid, proposal packet, because it's going to be a little bit over what we have to bid it out. And I think it should be pretty interesting, because all of them basically gave me the numbers around, $10,000 to $11,000, so they're all pretty much there. So, I've been talking with a number of companies, and their versions of which sign would be better, but that being a very busy intersection, the one presented was, just a flashing sign like around the stop sign, but I really don't think that's gonna be enough to draw attention to that road, that big intersection. And so I've had some debate with them over this, but I think what we talked about, the two, 6-inch LED alternating is our best method, but that's about all I've got. Any questions?
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda would be a report from the Oakland Chamber. I do not see Ms. Crapella here this evening. We did have, the Chamber did have their November luncheon yesterday. My understanding is, just for information, is there won't be a luncheon in December, but they will have a coffee connection at the site of the Festival of Trees, and that's all I'm aware of at this point for them. All right, continuing forward, let's see, I guess that would bring us to reports from the board and discussion items. First one is discussion item of mayor's secondary employment.
Yes, I'd ask Mr. Minor to research some things for us. Do you have any?
This issue, in going back over my files, was initially addressed in December of last year, where I gave an opinion in January of this year. Let me get to the email. And it was my understanding that there was a question about what control the board would have over any secondary employment that the mayor has. The comptroller's report from April of 2017, in its finding number 2, contains several things. The first it points to is the municipal code, section 4.303, where it cites that the town of Oakland code provides that no full-time officer or employee accept outside employment without approval by the Board of Aldermen. And then it also cites 4-305 of the same code that no town officer or employee should use or authorize the use of municipal time, facilities, equipment, or supplies for private gain or advantage. In that same finding, it noted that the mayor currently receives the same full-time benefits available to any other full-time employee of the town. And in its recommendations, it stated that the documentation of the Board of Aldermen approval of the mayor's private sector employment should be on file for inspection. The mayor should document the division of time between time spent on town business and private sector employment, and the mayor should not use his town office to conduct private sector business. It is my understanding, and I can be corrected if I'm wrong, that the issue of the mayor using town office to conduct private businesses is not an issue presently. I have made a phone call today. I've spoken to the comptroller's office, and I have been directed to staff attorney for the Division of Investigations, Mike Meyer, and I have placed a call to him and left a message with his office, spoke with his secretary. Because as I point out in my email to the board dated January 18 of this year, I feel that the comptroller inaccurately referred to the mayor as a full-time officer. The code uses that language, 4-303, says no full-time officer or employee of the municipality shall accept any outside employment without written authorization from the mayor after approval by the board. And the question that I have, and the question that I posed to the comptroller today is, what is an officer? Should that, in other words, should that word be removed from the code to make things more clear? As it's been pointed out to me, and as I stated in my email to the board on January 14 of this year, the state constitution, Article 11, Section 9, makes clear that a public elected official is never an employee of a governmental entity for which that person has been elected. And I know that the board has some issues sometimes with MTAS, and I don't normally rely on MTAS consultants, but I have had a 20-year relationship with their senior attorney in Knoxville, Melissa Ashburn, who has told me in writing that the mayor is not an employee. The mayor cannot, for instance, the mayor cannot accrue vacation time. An employee can accrue vacation time and get paid for it when they leave the employment. The mayor can't do that. The only thing by law the mayor can have from the town is health insurance, and there's a specific law that allows for that. I think that as a result of the emails that I had sent out earlier this year, the mayor is no longer keeping tabs on his sick leave and leave time and vacation time because it's not necessary.
Unless, go ahead.
Well, I would like to have the opportunity to talk to Mr. Meyer with the comptroller's office. I feel like he will call me tomorrow to see whether or not the comptroller agrees that this ordinance should be amended in order to remove the word officer, because clearly if you read that ordinance, what it's really driving at is that it's the employees that cannot have secondary employment unless you as the board approve it. Now, it may be that the intent when the wording of that ordinance was written was for officer to include department heads. In other words, separate your department heads out from just your regular employees. So it may be that the intent of the wording of the ordinance was that the officer, the municipal officer, was a department head. But you only have 5 elected people in this town. It's the four aldermen and the mayor. I don't have the blessings or the approval or the consent of point in time, but as soon as I have it, which I feel like will be tomorrow, I can get an email out to the board, to clarify anything that I've said tonight.
Well, I'm certainly in agreement with you that this comptroller's report is not 100% correct. And first of all, I'm not here to question whether or not the mayor is working for the town. I know he's working for the town. I know he puts in a lot of time. So that's not what this is about. What this is about is if we have a problem with our charter or our code, and I think he is the executive officer of the town. I think it clearly states that. I think that we would be foolish at this point with what we've already got on the table to try to change that, because with the new legislation we have that should be introduced in January of 20, the mayor wouldn't be the chief executive officer of the town if that passes at that point, which you wouldn't have a problem. But right now, it appears we have a problem because 4305 says chief officer or employee. So we know he's not an employee, he's an official, but he is the officer of the town. That's still not where I was going with this. Where I was going with this is in the recommendation from the comptroller under that finding, it says you should seek legal counsel to determine whether private sector employment and it violates the municipal code. Documentation of the approval should be kept on file. The mayor should document the division of time between time spent on town business and his private sector employment. The mayor should not use his town office to conduct private sector business. Okay? So that's where I'm going. So I think most of that's covered. But if we go to finding 5 there in that same report, if you have that with you, it says the Board of Mayor and Aldermen did not provide adequate oversight of the town's operations and did not establish internal controls to ensure the town's policies were followed. The lack of oversight by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen directly contributed to the failure of properly account for the town's funds and assets. Okay? So after those 2 findings, the District Attorney General sent us a letter. And in that letter, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to read a couple of things out of it. Any future audit findings of this type could constitute willful misconduct or neglect by a public official to perform a duty imposed and required by Tennessee law. In addition to possible criminal penalties, the potential penalty for any such Oakland official, that's us, we're the only 5 in town, who knowingly and willingly commits misconduct or neglects to perform or comply with a duty required by state law is removed from office by ouster. And finally this is the next part I'm going to read. Finally, based upon the foregoing, I would strongly advise and urge you to immediately make arrangements to comply with the recommendations of the Comptroller of the Treasury and to be especially diligent to comply with your statutory duties to properly account for and protect the assets of the town of Oakland in the future. That's a direction from the District Attorney General of this county, which would bring indictments against every one of us if something goes wrong. This board immediately took action. This board asked for this time, because that's what the comptroller said. We said we don't have a problem anymore with the facilities. The mayor don't use the facilities anymore for town. We don't have that problem. But that wasn't the only clause in this. And as the comptroller found us to be in violation, and keep in mind it wasn't this exact board, okay? I wasn't on the board when this audit was done. But I was on there shortly after this audit got through. And we tried to do everything that they said, and I could go through the whole report, but I'm not going to. It's public record. Visit the comptroller, Tennessee comptroller, you can find it there. But it's our duty, and we've been told what we should do and what we can't. And Mayor, I will say this to you, I am not trying to get you to do anything you don't want to do. I fully understand you were elected to this job, the people knew you had that job. I'm not doing it, but here's the one thing I want you to know. That as a board member, I'm not gonna ratify anything like that you hadn't done that they asked for. If they come and ask me, I'm gonna say, we asked for it, he didn't give it to us, is that our fault? Because we've asked. You provided it one time, but have not consistently provided, you never provided the breakdown because it said the difference, so that would have been both. We never got that, but what you did for Oakland, I feel is good enough. I just want it on record that we've about done everything in this, but we've also violated most of what we was wrote up for the first time. Again. But you're on your own. And if you can live with that, I can't. But I'm not ratifying it. I'm not approving anything that shouldn't be done. And I'm not going to be that person that gets indicted because we didn't do what we were supposed to do. And that's why it's important for this to be done. And, I mean, I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
So let me ask you a question, Vice Mayor. When you say there's a lot of stuff that we've not done since we corrected it, I mean, I don't know that we've done anything but move forward. I have not provided the full hours every month to the board, but other than that, everything else that's been in there and that we corrected is still corrected. So I guess I'm a little bit confused on one of your last statements saying that we've gone back to doing the same thing that we were doing when that came out.
Well, there's several
Wait a
audit
minute,
findings
Ken.
in here that we violated.
Could I speak, please?
Well, certainly, I just asked a question.
All right, to start off, the first month that we were sworn in, they sat right there in those two chairs and told us that we wasn't doing our job. 1 month. We asked him why. He said the same thing is still going on. But let me get to something. One of the things that was wrote up in that comptroller's office was over a computer deal. I don't want to drag this out. You know what I'm talking about. They wrote you up for that. You said it hadn't happened again. Let me refresh your memory about something. When you redid these printers, if it's over $10,000, the board has to approve it. If it's over $2,500, it has to be bidded out. How much did it cost when you did that?
I can't give you the total off the top of my head.
30-something thousand, right?
Again, I don't know the total. It'd be easy enough to get if you look at the
It's
month
30-something
times the
thousand.
contract.
Did,
Okay.
did anybody on this board vote for that?
No, we've discussed it, but the board has not voted on it. You
We
are
also
correct.
asked for legal counsel, should it be brought in front of the board, and he said yes. So audit number, that's one we violated again. That's one we violated again.
I was just gonna
The other
refresh
one-
your memory. You said we hadn't done it anymore, but we have.
The
No.
other one is we spent town money on non-town projects. I
Okay.
mean, we violated several of them again. We're in violation right now. And I hope Ms. Bullard has reported this stuff that she's aware of to the auditor, and we'll know in our next audit if she did. But this board made sure we made it clear to self-report any infraction that we knew about it and to be as transparent to the people as we can.
I personally sent the contracts, the individual contracts on those printers to the comptroller's office myself with a letter. I didn't email it. I mailed it. I sent it overnight so they could look at the contract, and it was like $33,000. This board never voted on it. It never was bidded out. So don't sit there and tell me that we hadn't redone something that we did in the past.
Okay. Anything else on this subject?
I mean,
I mean, I'm not taking it lightly, but what else is there to say? I mean, I understand, and it's part of the minutes and the records and the recording that will be put out.
I just want to make sure that all the rest of the board understands that they were given a task by the Attorney General to do their job here, and anybody that isn't doing it
It's in violation.
could be indicted and found to be in violation and be ousted from office if you don't do your job. But I mean, I just want everybody to know that I'm not questioning whether the mayor works here or not. I'm not questioning it at all. The only thing I'm saying is, and I'm also saying that I don't agree with everything in that comptroller's report. But I did think they made it clear on what this board should do and what actions the board should take. The board took those actions, but they have not been complied with. I thought the Attorney General's letter, you read it, I sent it to you. Do you think it was pretty clear on what our duties are here?
Very clear.
Very clear. They're clear to me. And it's clear that you can be punished if you don't do it.
Right. And I'm familiar with issues involving long-term copy release agreements, and that is one that needs to be brought back.
It ain't just that contract according to the charter though, council. It
No,
said
I
that all
understand.
contracts should be
contracts are
brought in
be-
front of the board.
That is correct.
Do you know how many I've seen?
Zero. But let me make a remark. I'm just speaking for Frank right now. I'm not speaking for anybody else on this board. You can bring that back on those printers, but it'll be a cold day and you know where before I sign it. I am not gonna okay something that I know was done wrong to start with. Cause that releases, it just frees up everything and puts us in a bind. You bring it back. I'm not speaking for the board. I'm speaking for Frank. I will not sign it.
We've seen the contracts. We asked for the bids on it. We don't even know if it was bids on that work or if the contract was given out. I don't care if it's 50 cents, $5, or 50,000. Everything should be done right. And that's what it talks about safeguarding the assets of this town. So if we're still paying for that contract, $30,000, when we could be paying $28,000 because we didn't get the bids, we're still in violation and we're violating it every month. And it ain't the first time it's brought up. It was brought up a couple of months ago. But we've got to just do what we're supposed to do. That's it, and it's simple. It's not that hard.
We prepared to move forward. Next would be pay structure from water, wastewater. On your workstation, there should be a packet from Mr. Ellis for all of Public Works, which include actual Public Works Department, water and wastewater. Gives the org chart of the department, and then each department has its own write-up. I will say that there's some salary numbers that I want to confirm with some comparisons around the state that I've not been able to yet, but this is what Mr. Ellis was instructed to do and what he has provided for the board.
We don't have to do anything with that tonight since we only got it 20 minutes before the meeting, right?
Well, there's nothing on the agenda to do with it, but,
We
We got
asked,
some questions about it.
yeah,
okay?
we asked of what his proposed, what their salary was now. We asked for names, what their salary is now, and what he's projecting their salary to be after the pay raise. I see an amount. Is that what they're making now, or is that what that's projected to make?
What's on here by their name is what they're currently making.
So how do we know what they're projected to make, what the recommendation is for them to make?
He did not provide a recommendation on any raises past what's already been put in the budget at this point.
I think we need to bypass this till Mr. Ellis is here.
For him to be present, to,
Don't you?
give a,
Absolutely, but I just hope he understands that the longer that this goes on, the more he's hurting his employees that's out there. You got a man, for instance, just for the record, it's been here, the salary range is $17.50 to $20 an hour. He's making $17.68 an hour, and he's been with Oakland for 13 years and 10 months. So, you know, he's 18 cents over the minimum pay right here on the salary, but he's been here 13 years and 10 months. So we procrastinate this, we procrastinate it, and now that poor boy is making 18 cents more than what the salary range after he's put in 13 years and 10 months with you. And I don't like procrastinating that. So I'm available anytime to meet on this with Mr. Ellis,
I am
as
too.
long as it's after my work time. But I don't have to wait till December. We need to get something settled, but he needs to provide what this board asked for. And that's the name, the job title, what he's making now, and what he's recommending for that employee to make. And that's what needs to be done. And if he can't do that, let's get somebody in that job that can.
So the only thing not present is the recommendation of the new salary.
And for the record, this ain't something new. This was brought up during the 18-19 budget and wasn't provided, and again in the 19-20 budget, and it wasn't provided, and we're still talking about it today.
Okay?
I think we just need to bypass this till we can get with Mr. Ellis. No sense in spending some time, we don't know what we're talking about.
Okay. Next item, discussion is insurance. Mr. Sutton?
Yes, I requested some information on our medical spend. I didn't ask for anybody's names. Miss Yvonne reached out to them. I saw the email where they responded, and they responded that they could not give us that information. So I want Mr. Minor to look into this, and I know there's HIPAA laws, and I'm not asking for anybody's name, anybody's illness. What I want is that pharmacy sheet that shows the type of medicine that we bought and how much we paid for it.
It don't have to be individuals nowhere.
What that cost is. And I wanna know if it's any laws where they can't provide that information that don't include anybody's name, address,
Security.
phone number, or any personal information. The name of the drug and the cost that we paid for the drug. Now, I've worked this from a large industry. I promise you, you can make deals on these medicines and save yourself some money. They are robbing our people with these cards on this insurance. They're robbing them on the price of this medicine. We've got to put a stop to it. If you would forward those emails that I sent you to Mr. Minor, and Mr. Minor, maybe you need to send them a letter requesting that information.
Okay, anything else on insurance? All right. Next is street paving, Mr. Cates and Mr. Sutton.
I was just curious of where we standing on getting the pavement paved since we got such a late start on it.
Well, they have completed the Oakland Woods Section A and Section B. They started doing mill work in Northwoods today. It's in process, and they started working over at Chickasaw Ridge and Meebang today. So,
Are they going
Not
down the
quite.
list that we were given?
well, they've got the list of what the board approved, and they are managing their project the way that they feel they can get through it the best that they can. So we didn't tell them you've got to start 1 through 12. We signed a contract. They bid on what we had in it, which is what you determined we would go through this year. Then from that point, they determined just as long as they get the work done in the time frame they're supposed to get it done. And right now they're moving, you know, where I see no reason unless Mother Nature stops them that they won't finish ahead of schedule.
Can you tell me what the date they started in Oakland?
I would have to get that for you. I know we discussed it last month, and I don't remember the specific date, to be honest with you.
I'd like you to email that to the board the day they started and the day that the contract that they were supposed to have started.
Okay. Thought we had sent that, but I'll be glad to review and send or resend.
We couldn't send it because the last time we had a meeting, they hadn't started. So there's no way we could have sent it.
Okay.
I've got a question for the board. Did everybody understand here that we asked for a paving priority list of what needed to be done, streets first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and for us to follow a priority list of what needed the most attention?
That's what we voted on.
Does everybody on this board agree that that's what we voted on?
Yes, sir.
It was.
Is this board aware that that's not being done? That we paved a street that's got the least damage of any street on the list first? There's a citizen in here that lives on that street. And I think if you ask him how bad a shape it was in, he'd say, you know, mine really wasn't in that bad a shape at all. But then we've left places on that road right now in that section that's worse than what they paved. And they don't have any intentions of paving the worst. Y'all, I encourage y'all, if we all get together and ride, for us to go look at what's happening in our departments. It is sad. And I also encourage you this, and this is something I encourage you, to inspect what you expect. If we're paying for 2 inches of overlay, somebody needs to be measuring that asphalt to make sure we're getting 2 inches of overlay, because I promise you, it ain't that hard to measure, and I measured some, and we're not getting it everywhere. So we need to inspect what we expect, just like the mosquito abatement. You know, if we're paying for them to spray all these streets, who's making sure that they're spraying them, or are they just sending us a bill? So are we getting 2 inches? We're paying for 2 inches. How do we know we're getting 2 inches?
Well, we've got the engineer has a contract in there to inspect the job that they're doing, and it's a couple of different things. It's the amount, it's the density of it, and then as they finish, there'll be a core sample to make sure that it's the strength it's supposed to be.
Are we paying the engineer?
They are getting paid for their inspection work. correct.
Who's checking to make sure the engineer's doing his job we're paying?
Public Works Department.
So we have a gauge, Oakland does, that checks that asphalt, and there's a report that he checked it. And we've got measurements of asphalt all over Oakland.
No, we're just making sure the engineer's out there on the job doing it. We're not going behind him checking his job.
Well, we need to, because we're paying him to do a job. And so you got to inspect what you expect out of people. So that's what we're for, oversight of the money we're spending in the town.
Right.
So we've got to make sure the people we have in place are making the people that we're paying to do a job are completing that job.
Right.
And that's not a bad system. And I don't think you would disagree with that. Would you?
Well, making sure the job's done, but I do have a level of confidence in the staff that's overseeing to make sure they're on the job, and the relationship with the company that's doing it that we've had for way before any of us came here. So I feel like they're doing the right thing. But if the board would like it done differently, we will do it.
I think the board just wants oversight of what's being done. That's what we want. If somebody, just like the thing, hey, we've got a GPS tracker of when the mosquitoes were sprayed. Why, if you got it, and that's our agreement with them, why does it take 3 or 4 months? Surely, to goodness, did he make that much money off of us? He can stay on vacation for 3 months?
I didn't say he was on vacation. I said he was out of town. But
It's just hard to set up.
Is he the only one that can control it? Is he out of business if he's gone? There's nobody else. Is he like us on Fridays?
pretty much, you know, and let me say this, and then if we're finished, I'll be glad to move on, but
I got a question.
the board is the one that voted on the contract and agreed with what was in that contract. And so I guess I'm a little confused why you're saying we're doing stuff that wasn't supposed to be done. You were aware of everything that was in here when we moved forward, if I'm not mistaken.
And I asked for a priority list, and I got one. I said, I want to know specifically. And there's some people in the audience that was here. And I said, I hope everybody understands what I'm asking for. A paving priority list. What roads are we going to pave first, second, third, and fourth, based on the condition that these roads are in? We received that report
Mr. Ellis
of
gave
what
it
was
to
the
us.
worst, what was the next, but that's not what we did.
Right.
It's not what we did.
It's hard for us to spend taxpayers' money, which that's where this is coming from, and not get what we're paying for. It's not only beating the town, it's beating our citizens also.
Mr. Cates, though, they're fulfilling their contract. And this is what,
If they're not
he's
putting
not
down-
doing it in the order.
But what if you run
But you
out of money?
said-
What if something drastic happens where we have to cut it off? Or what if the weather gets so bad and gets so cold, they had to park that machine for a few days. I rode
They
by
did.
there, it was parked, they wasn't able to work. So what if they're not able to finish? What if he gets sick and goes out of town for 3 months? You know, and then you're in the next budget year.
Well-
And so at least we would have the worst roads done first if that was the case, not the best ones done first, and now the worst ones are still bad.
Okay.
Some of them you can hardly drive on.
Okay.
I'd just love for us to see us take a common sense approach to things. And for the department head to do what the board asked him to do. And I'm open-minded. If he has a problem, if that's not a good idea, come and talk to us about it. But if the board expects that to be done that way, they voted that way, then let's do it that way unless he talks to us about it and convinces us otherwise. And I'm open to listen for that. They know more about their jobs than I do. So if they've got a reason why they shouldn't do it the way the board asked them to do, I'm willing to listen. But I hadn't had him tell me that that was impossible. We shouldn't do it that way. It's okay, and then it don't get done. But here's what all of them should know, that I'm out there riding and looking every day. Another thing I want to say about this paving is a citizen that's in this room comes up to me and went and talked to them paving people, and they told her to send me an email because I'm the one that made the decisions on paving. That's the second time I've heard that since I've been in office. I cleared that up in another meeting. The only thing I vote on is the approval of the minute, and tried to get a priority list for the citizens so they would know when their roads are getting paved. But even by doing that, that didn't assure that that's what got done, because I have no control, none, over what an employee does on a day-to-day basis. None. I can't tell them to do nothing. The law says you cannot. We can meet here. I can make a motion. This board can agree for somebody to tell an employee what to do, but Ken Sutton can't direct a single employee to do a thing in this town. So if you would inform your department head to inform the contract person that got the paving that I'm not who they should call to get something done, it's you. And so I just want to make that clear. And when she told me that, I said, well, ma'am, I'm sorry, they told you a lie. I don't make those decisions. The mayor makes them.
I even had a citizen that I go to church with. They had talked to the driver, and he said if it hadn't have been for the two of the DAM aldermen up here, that they could have got started on time. To me, that's not very professional. I don't care what he says about me. I'm pretty sure Ken don't either. But he shouldn't be off making remarks like that to citizens of Oakland.
Well, I'll address that. This is the first I've heard about it.
I would just like to point the citizens in the right direction. And I'll do everything I can when we meet here to help any of y'all on anything y'all want. But I cannot direct these employees to do their jobs. We can vote on it here and they still don't have to do their jobs. The mayor needs to make sure people do their jobs here, not the board. We just vote on the job to be done. We don't make people do their jobs. That's the mayor's job.
Yep. All right, we're prepared to move forward? Yes. Okay, next is Town Hall office space. Vice Mayor Sutton?
Yeah, I would like to see us move forward on this, and we voted for everybody to go over there but the police department. I'd like to see some plans of how those offices would be created, and I'd like to see that done as soon as possible.
I met last week with a citizen of the town that's an architect, and she's a friend of the town, to take a look and to give me an idea so I can bring it back to the board, what it's going to take to prepare that, to move utility payments and all that over there. As soon as I receive that, I'll get it out to the board, and then from there we'll have to determine, I'm sure it'll have to be bid out for the work to be done, because just putting the offices in without putting the window and all that was about $52,000 was an estimate that I'd gotten.
Well,
so I've started that process, without starting to bid, obviously, because the board has to approve that. But
yeah, but you didn't have any problem bringing up something that the board didn't approve to us for final payment on 50-something thousand, where you were gonna move Park and Rec over there without the board's permission. We all had plans, and we had an invoice there to approve to move them and everything else. So why would we have a big problem doing this when we didn't have a big problem getting the bid done and having it for one department that says that they spend 90% of their time outside, which is 36 hours a week, so they'd only be in the office 4. So we can, what we need to determine first is the board needs to decide if we're gonna put new tiles in, or new carpet, or new paint, because when we bought it, it was in pretty good shape. So we all need to determine what we need to do to the building before we start getting bids. But the main thing is we need to know how many offices we need over there, and how we're gonna do that.
Well, it's in just specifically what's on the table now, and again, what was done before was brought to the board to give you an idea of what it was going to take. There's a lot more to it than just offices. I mean, we've got to have a window, we've got to have the drop box.
Mayor, that's not true. That was on our last month's agenda for us to pass that work that we had a bid on that. It was on our agenda. And we didn't.
We couldn't accept that bid, though. It was over $10,000, so it would, or that invoice or quote, it would have to be bid out. because it's over $10,000. So if it was on there for anything other than the discussion item, that was my area.
I don't think it even, nobody made a
Nobody
motion to
made
put
a
it into
motion to hear it.
discussion.
So
But-
how would we know that it wasn't?
But the thing about it, it was never brought up to go over there and have somebody plan on doing that anyway.
Well, just to be clear, when we first purchased it, one of the first things we talked about, since Parks and Rec would be managing the activity center and the other buildings, I brought up moving Parks and Rec over there and potentially code enforcement. The board felt differently, so we're going in a different direction. But it's not like this just came in, you know, in a dream at night. It had been discussed many times up to that point. I'm okay with going a different direction, but we've got to start somewhere, and we've got to understand even what the specs to bid it out would be, because whether we change tiles or not, there's going to have to be walls put in, or whether they're short walls or full walls, and there's have to be a lot of work done. There's going to have to be some ceiling tiles replaced once the vents are wrapped because of the sweating and the leaking of those. And so there's work that's going to have to be done that's going to end up having to be bid out. It's just, unless we do it a room at a time, it's going to be more than state law will allow us to get 3 quotes on and just
But
go in and do.
before we bother somebody about giving us a quote, business people are busy and it costs them money to give quotes. Why have a man come in and give you a quote if that hadn't even been approved by the board to do that work? That's my thing. If I get a man that, if there's some businessman out here, I said, hey, come give me a quote. And he takes time, he drives his vehicle over there and he gives you a quote and he writes you a quote. And so, well, I'm sorry, I hadn't even talked to my wife about this. I appreciate you giving me a quote, but, you know, I can't hire you.
Yeah, but
And so before you get any quotes, let's find out what has to be done, get the board to approve it, and say, hey, yes, we want to put ceiling tiles in, we want to build an office here, we want to put a floor, we want to do that, because there ain't nothing wrong with that floor over there. You may not like the looks of it, but it's in pretty good shape.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, before we trouble anybody, let's get the board's approval to make sure that we're gonna do the work in the first place. Let's not put the cart before the horse.
This is getting to be like a lot of the other stuff before this board. We sit up here month after month after month and talk about it, but ain't one damn thing gets done. Not one, not nothing. We just sit here and talk about it month after month.
okay.
And I don't know about the rest of the board. I feel like starting at the first of the year, when this board votes on something and we agree to it, if we can't get it started through our mayor, that we need to take the bull by the horn and start doing it ourselves.
Okay. Anything else on office space at this point? So let me be clear what the board wants on this office space. So do you want the rough drawings the architect's doing to give us an idea, or do you just want to know the number of offices so you can determine what needs to be done? I guess.
Is she doing that pro bono?
Yeah, I can't hire her. We don't even know what to hire her.
Absolutely, I want her to do the plans in. Absolutely,
Well,
I'd love to see them.
These are going to be rough plans. They're not going to be a full drawing for that fact, but we've got to have a starting place somewhere, which we do with all this stuff.
I want you to move forward. I'd love to see the plans. I'd love to vote on this and get some stuff moving over there. And I'd love to see that downtown area start to grow and develop and redone. And I think that was the reason why we purchased that, is to not let our downtown area just fully deteriorate and dilapidate, was to start something down there and get some people moving down there, and maybe the other places will fill up and it'll be beautiful, and we'll get a big grant and let the state pay for some street lights and stuff like that.
It's one thing we don't wanna forget and lose sight of, though. When we start these offices over there, we gotta remember 2 things. Miss Jackson, that works in human resources, are sitting right out in the open now where people can go by. She can be working on personal stuff, and it's very easy to look. She's very concerned about that. Mr. Bond will tell you. She needs a complete closed-in office with a door where nobody can, and she knows who's coming in. It's just not, if you go in her office right now, everybody that comes from the back to the front or from front to the back has to go right through the back of her office, right where she's working. So we don't want to lose sight when we start building. She needs a complete closed-in office, and so does Mr. Bond, the town recorder, because it's too much private information laying on a desk that anybody could walk through there and get. So we want to remember that when we start doing those offices over there.
Mr. Cates, I appreciate that. I do want to make sure the public knows, though, that while it is an open area, it's open to authorized personnel only. It's not
I
something
agree.
where
I didn't
I
mean-
know, no, I'm just making sure that the public understands it's not open to the general public. You have to
But any employee
have
that
access
goes
to
through
it.
there can see what she's doing.
Okay. Next item is future sports complex and parks. Contract questions, Mr. Cates.
Yeah, I'd like to get a confirm on that contract from Mr. Minor, because I think it's a confusion of what was agreed on and what was done on the second contract from the way I'm looking at things.
You are referring to the Smoot property contract?
Yes, sir, I am. I think the first contract that we voted on, it was different than the one that they wrote. I think it was something left out that I think it should be back in there.
The agreement that was prepared by the listing agent, Mr. Jenkins, that the board voted on, had a item under special stipulations that the buyer agrees to allow, buyer being, of course, Town of Oakland, to allow Joyce Smoot naming rights in honor of her family for the future overall use of the park site.
That's the one we voted on.
That was the one that was voted on and the one that the mayor signed as an offer.
Okay.
When the property was divided out into a front parcel and a back parcel, the addendum that was prepared again by Mr. Jenkins, with his error, he omitted that clause. Now, I don't think there's any doubt that Mr. Jenkins understands that Ms. Smoot wanted naming rights, because in an email to me, before even the first contract was signed by the mayor, he made clear that Ms. Smoot wanted naming rights over that property.
Is it any way that we can get him to add that, even though we voted and the mayor
Could we
signed it?
just pass that in a resolution form that the contract's already be executed?
Once title transfers, the terms of a contract are moot anyway.
Right.
And so the town could easily pass a resolution just ratifying what it did back when the first contract was approved, whenever it was.
Well, I certainly don't want to take advantage of an elderly lady because her or somebody working for her, that it was the intentions of this board to give her the name and contracts for that property. And so we need a resolution drawn. If I'll make a motion to draw a resolution to give the Joy Smoot the naming rights for her family to the park property that was purchased.
I second that.
So this is just to be clear, the motion is to ensure that the permanent naming rights of the full use of the park. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying,
Was that the
Vice
original?
Mayor?
Well, yeah, I mean, the
Would you,
exact language is
would you
that-
read, excuse me, would you read that paragraph one more time?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, instead of buyer, I'll say the town of Oakland agrees to allow Joy Smoot naming rights in honor of her family for the future overall park site.
Thank you.
Okay. So we've got a motion and a second to have a resolution prepared for the next meeting to ensure the future naming rights of the 141 acres. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Now, that's the reason that I've been raising so much cane about our sign that we put down here. And I've emailed the mayor a couple times. With all due respect, I still disagree with him. In the first place, if we agreed to that, the first sign that went up, and I emailed it to him, probably to the board, that sign should have read, Newman, whatever it is. Newbern, Oakland, Sports Complex and Park. That's the way that first sign should have went up down there, so people in this town would have knew about that. If we agreed to that, that's what should have went on that sign. This board knew nothing about the sign, the Park and Rec, the mayor did that. And that's why I've been upset for 2 months, and I've raised all kind of cane with him, and I've emailed the mayor. I just don't think it was fair, I don't think it was right, and it's not what the town agreed to start with. And if we can't do what we say we're gonna do, then we're in bad shape. And that's all I got to say about that sign.
Okay. We prepared to move forward? Next would be grant writer, grant opportunities. Vice Mayor Sutton?
Where are we at on this?
I have the very same, applications that I had the last time we spoke on it.
what does this board need to do to get a grant writer to work?
Well, we had discussed if we wanted to take it a project at a time or actually hire a grant writer. Right now, we're in the process of getting a couple different grants going with different folks, because if I remember correctly, the board said that you didn't want to hire one, you wanted to put them to work, so to speak.
Right, it
we're
won't cost us a dime for this girl to come write grants for us unless she gets us grants. And then she'll get a percentage of that grant. So I make a motion that we let this single applicant that wants to write grants for the town of Oakland go to work.
Well,
She don't have a one.
No, we have actually three applicants. I have forwarded those to y'all in the past.
Is there any way we can talk to them, or can we just vote on it?
well,
We would have to vote on it, but we need to get it happening.
well, we do, but there's a couple things to consider. You know, in the town has a company that's done some grant writing for us in the past that helped us get the FEMA grant, that did the work at Black Ankle Creek and others. And you can do it a couple different ways. You can bring in someone to just write the grant, then they step away, and if we get it, then they get their cut and that's it. Or you can bring in a firm that writes them and manages that process all the way through. I know the one that we've used in the past is very good about managing that project all the way through, especially state and federal grants, because of all the paperwork that's included and necessary to be turned in. If you talk to some of the municipalities around us that just went out and got a grant writer, they ended up having to go hire this company after the fact to manage it in order to get that paperwork correct.
They charge by the hour, or by the job, or percentage, or what?
Well, it just depends. Now, typically, it's a percentage of the grant that they get. And if you get a firm that manages it all the way through, that percentage may be a couple % higher because they do all of that extra work. If you just go hire them after the fact, then it's going to be either by project or by hour.
I'm not against that. I'm against just sitting here doing nothing again. Let's get something moving.
Excuse me, are we getting a professional grant writer?
Well, we're going to, and that's, we're discussing either, we are looking to secure a professional grant writer or a company that does it, that has several that works for them.
My only issue is, I don't want a company that we just give them the information about a grant and they seek it out. I would rather have a person that's gonna help us seek out grants. Cause there's some things, even when I'm reading, that I can miss, that we may qualify for. And they may know a little tricks of the trade.
I sent one to y'all about a month ago. I don't know if y'all got it, but I forwarded it to your email about the availability of some park grants. There's another dog park grant that's available through Randy Boyd up there, 25 grand that's available. And we need to be moving on these grants that's available right now. We've got 100-something acres over there. We're ready to get stuff going on. So, you know, this, you know, if it was the second or time had been brought up, but I mean, it's time to do something about getting somebody to write some grants. And I'm prepared to take your recommendation, Mayor.
I am too.
If somebody's been successful now, if and got us a grant before we've worked with, and you're comfortable with them, yeah, I'm prepared to take your recommendation.
Let's get it and go with it. Let's quit talking about it.
If this board would give me till this time next week, and I'll send an email. Let me look at the contracts and try to address Alderman Rector's concern, and then I will send you through Ms. Bullard.
You know, we need a watchdog. Somebody's gonna look out.
Yep. Okay. So I will follow up with that early next week. Next item is town building access. Mr. Cates?
Yeah, who else got keys to the buildings in Oakland? Is it for the city hall, the new buildings and stuff that we bought?
Well,
Access, who's got access to them without coming through you?
well, police department has access to, well, actually, they don't have access to the new Main Street buildings, but to all of City Hall. I believe Ms. Bullard has a key to her office, if I'm not mistaken. There's a keypad on the back of the building where the camera's at. And Parks and Rec has access to the buildings on Main Street. And then there is I have a key, and there's a key in the safe to access those. As far as the code enforcement building, the code enforcement officers and the Park and Rec staff.
Okay, let me back up a little bit. You say excuse me, you say the police headed to the city hall?
Yes.
Do they not have it to the new building we bought?
I don't believe they've been given those keys, no.
Could I ask why not? They the ones that protects us, they protect our citizens. And if you got employees that got keys to these buildings, it beats a life out of me why the police wouldn't have one.
Be honest, I hadn't thought about it. We just had the locks changed 3 or 4 weeks ago to ensure that no one else had access that we didn't give keys to, which of course we don't hand out keys. But I have no problem. We've got a set of keys in the safe, but would be glad to get a set for the police chief and let him distribute it as he feels necessary.
Does the board have any objections to the police having keys to that, since they the one protecting our buildings?
It'd be easier than kicking the door down.
I was just curious why they
Hopefully
didn't
call
have
me
it,
and I'd be over there
and
in
the
3
employees
minutes.
do.
Okay. Anything else on access? Okay, town functions, Vice Mayor Sutton?
Yes, I understand that we had a holiday dinner for our employees.
We did last Wednesday, excuse me.
And, you know, I'm not asking for anything free. I've paid my way to anything I've ever went to. But I feel like it would only be appropriate to invite the board so we could thank these people for the job they do, and why we wouldn't be invited to a holiday dinner function for the town employees. I'd just like to know why we wouldn't be invited to something like that.
Well, the date changed a couple times, and that was my error. We are going to have a mixer around Christmas time, and I will be getting that email out within the next 2 weeks, giving plenty of notice. But it wasn't something intentionally to keep y'all away. It's just getting caught up in the moment and trying to make sure that we provided that for the staff. In the past, the board has always been invited, and again, it was just an oversight. It wasn't meant as any disrespect or to keep you from it.
I just thought it was because we was elected officials and not town employees.
No, sir. We typically always invite the board to these events and functions.
It would have been nice, but I tell you, I want it on the record, and that I personally want to thank every one of our employees for the job they do for the town of Oakland.
I do too.
And I hate that I wasn't invited to be able to enjoy the fellowship with them for their Thanksgiving meal.
Yes,
I
Mayor,
appreciate it.
on a good note, the chief of police, he have one in November. Ask him to let us come to that.
Talking about the fire
Somebody go to
department, the
his
volunteer firemen? Like I say, we will have an event in December, and you guys will be invited.
You see an event going on.
And
What's your address, Chief?
okay. But again, my apologies. It wasn't meant as any disrespect. Go ahead and continue forward. Utility contracts, Mr. Sutton?
Utility contracts. Several months, maybe a year or so ago, we talked about utility contracts. Those that come to the meetings and know that it was in 1995, the last time we executed a contract between our cable companies and internet providers. I asked for a new contract for us to see how many customers we have, to make sure that these people are paying Oakland the money we're due on these contracts. I have not seen another contract on this. I hadn't heard about another contract on this, and would just like to know where we're at on this contract, which was Time Warner that we have, which has been out of business for several years. But for those in the audience that don't know, that if a utility company does business in your town, then you're due a franchise fee for every customer in Oakland. And the books I've seen, I don't feel like they're accurate, that we're receiving what these cable companies should be paying us. But if you look on your bill, when you get home, you're gonna see where they're charging you. But are they paying us? I don't know. I've asked for it, how many customers they say they have in Oakland, and hadn't received it. Mayor?
Well, we've gotten an update to the original one we got. It was Time Warner. That's now Comcast. They've actually changed directors and some staff. Attorney Minor's been through it and provided some things to look at. It's a matter of me getting those updates done and sending it back to Comcast, such things as the amount of liability insurance they carry and the reporting and the restrictions on any other utilities coming in. And so I'm in the process of getting that done and getting it back to them. Hopefully, as we get into the holidays and some of the workload eases up, I'll be able to get that done and get that to them so that we can get that in front of this board in January.
I appreciate that, Mayor, but I could go back to the minutes and get you the exact month, but I heard that same answer about a year ago. When can we expect this contract to be complete, Attorney Minor? If you're the one working on it, I can turn to you. I do have a little control over what you do, so when can we expect this utility contract to be executed? Or brought before the board for us to prove it before it's executed, like we're supposed to do every contract?
Again, as I said, Mr. Miners reviewed it and pointed some things out to me. I have it.
When?
He's gone through it some time back.
A year ago?
And we hadn't seen it?
How would you point to him if he did this a year ago?
I didn't point to him. I said he's reviewed it, so the board knows he has reviewed it.
He
I'm not
reviewed it a year
pointing at
ago. Again, if we don't do what we're supposed to do, we're costing the taxpayers every month it goes by. Every month. And so that's exactly what we're in charge of, is looking after the tax dollars for the people and the revenues. It's out of control. And you want to talk about secondary employment? Why would I approve your secondary employment if the job here is not getting done? Now, I don't think it'd do any good for me not to improve your secondary employment, because I don't think you'd have to do anything if I didn't. Right? I don't feel like you have an obligation to resign at all, no matter what.
You're correct.
But if I've been charged to approve or disapprove that, why would I approve that? If you're not doing things that's been laying on the table for a year, that's costing everybody in this town money, why would I even say, yeah, it's okay if he works another job?
No.
Could I ask Mr. Minor something?
Sure.
Since you work for the Aldermen, if we ask you to do a research for us, whether me, Ken, anybody on this board, would you please give it to us and not to the mayor, or give it to us the same time you do the mayor, so we'll make sure we get it?
Well, generally, when I send out an opinion, I always send it out to the board and the mayor. But now, on this contract, I mean, I can't remember a year ago the exact discussion, but I was asked to review that contract
Right.
and give my comments.
I asked Mr. Minor to review that. The board didn't, so that we'd make sure there wasn't anything from a legal
Well,
perspective that I missed, since I'm not an attorney.
I don't think the mayor's privy to any information that we're not privy to. I don't think, even personnel issues. So if you correspond with the mayor, just copy us in.
I will be glad to go back to my office tomorrow, pull that file out, and send the comments that I sent to the mayor to the board.
But the thing about it, it was a year ago.
So do we need, as a board, to make a motion tonight to direct somebody to handle this contract besides the mayor, so we can rest assured that we'll be getting something done? That's the thing. It's been sitting there for a year. So do we, as a board, need to make a motion directing Miss Yvonne to bring this contract in front of us so we can execute it?
Well, until certain things are updated on it, the board doesn't need to
The
execute it.
attorneys approved it. He said he had his approval
No,
on it.
he
changed
has
what he-
reviewed it,
I reviewed it and made
and he's made comments.
So it took a year to write the comments on a contract?
No, it did not.
So what
There's
is
a little
it?
bit more going on, Alderman. You know, this thing, you forget each month, you'll give us somewhere between 18 and 30 additional things to do beside what's going on every day. And yes, I respect this town. I'm doing everything I can to keep it moving forward. But there is a point in time where I've got to operate on the day-to-day business. I've got to prioritize things. And yes, some things will slip. This probably shouldn't have slipped a year. But if you would just settle back and let me do my job instead of continue to try to run the day-to-day that interferes with what I'm doing, we could get a lot more done. I assure you, if we work as a team, instead of you continually coming at me trying to tell me what I haven't done and what I don't do. I mean, this could be so much better, gentlemen.
That's only
so
once
much
a
better.
month, though, isn't it, right? We don't try, who's tried to run your day-to-day
No,
operation?
well, it happens more than once, but it's the activities every board meeting, we leave here and there's a list of things that have to be done the next month.
So there's somebody on this board that contacts you over your day-to-day operations of the town?
Again, there's things going on all the time, but we leave every meeting with a list
That wasn't
of
my
things.
question.
I know, but I'm telling you that is part of it, of not just being able to set our own schedule. Every department head, even myself, has a list every board meeting.
Could I ask you a question?
I prefer to move to the next topic, but yes, sir.
I'd like to ask you a question.
Yes,
Have
sir.
I been yelling at you?
No, sir, and
Well, I would appreciate the same courtesy, because if you wanna get in a yelling match, you got to.
we're not gonna yell. I'll stop this meeting before we start
Hey, I
yelling.
hadn't yelled at you. I just asked you to show the same respect that I've showed you. I'm not yelling at you.
Okay, I apologize if my voice raised. I don't think it was yelling, but I apologize, and it is back
I have
down
a
to where it
right
should
to
be.
I
question you.
understand. I don't think you were out of line.
Again, if I offended you, I apologize. I want this board to work together, and I want us to get the town's business done. And so, my voice raised a little, I apologize, it won't again.
I'm not dead. I just
No,
said
I'm
that
just
I
telling you,
yell
it
at
won't.
That I yell at you. That's all
Well,
I
you
ask.
have raised your voice, but it's not important. I won't raise mine, I assure you. So, this contract will get done. The board is welcome to take the action that they want. I do ask you to let me get this finished and to you. And if I can't get it on the December agenda, then I will communicate with you prior to that and let you know if it will be on the January agenda, because there is things that have to be updated on it. And Comcast has to agree before we vote on it, or there's no need voting and trying to ratify something that they're not going to sign.
Would you mind sending an email out with the specifics?
Certainly.
As soon as possible, so we'll just kind of know
Certainly.
exactly what needs to be changed.
Okay?
I think several of us get excited in here, Mayor, so you didn't offend me by raising your voice. I know I do mine sometimes, so. That shows you've got passion in what you do. I don't never question your passion. I never question your passion. I just question the time frame that it takes us to get things done. And this has went on for too dadgum long, too long. And
Okay.
I make a motion that this be in front of this board in the December meeting.
Even if Comcast has not signed off on the changes we request?
Absolutely. I want to see the contract that we're presenting to Comcast.
Okay? I can bring it, or you can go ahead and continue your motion. It's up to you. It's not necessary, but I will leave that up to you, sir.
I'll take your word for it. If you said you're gonna get it to us, I'll take your word for it.
Thank you.
I withdraw my motion.
Thank you. All right, next item is 65 Main Street, tenant contract. Mr. Cates?
Yeah, did we ever get a solid contract from him?
Most definitely.
Did he pay the electric, the gas and everything?
He has paid. There is some outstanding electric bills. He's paid 1 month of them. There were the previous that were outstanding, and unfortunately, he is in the hospital, been in ICU the last week and a half, I believe. Could be off on my days, but we are tracking it. He has been sent notification of the late.
So the town's not responsible for his late fees, right?
No, he pays the town. Right now, we're in the process of making sure that everything is moved over into his name. Gas is in his name, but we're in the process of getting him to move the water and the electricity into his name so that he doesn't even have to pay us. But right now, he's responsible, or we pay it and he pays us back.
Did we go back and see if he paid us from the time we bought the building, and he owe any back rent?
We didn't talk to him about back rent. We did request that he pay the utilities going back, I believe it was 3 months, and he agreed without question.
I believe I asked Mr. Minor to check, could we not get back pay for the time we bought the building? Did I not ask you that?
I think that I had commented on that.
That's right, you
I'll go back and
did.
pull my file, but I'm sure I communicated with the board about it.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
pretty sure you give that authority.
We asked to go back and get the back pay from the time the town had bought that. And I just wanted to follow up and see if electricity and stuff was in his name, and did we get any back rent from the time that the town had purchased the building?
So just so I can be clear, maybe Attorney Minor understands, and I don't know, are you talking about the utilities, or are you talking about the rent? Because we didn't have a lease in place,
I'm
you know.
talking about the rent mostly, more than the utilities.
Okay, just want to clarify. Because the utilities he's agreed to pay and I believe has paid those.
I
It's
wasn't
current.
questioning that.
Okay. Well, you had said rent and utilities. I just want to make sure so
But
we're
I
clear.
wanted to make sure that the contract covered that him paying the gas and utility, and the.
Oh, it
all the
does.
utilities.
It does.
Because we hadn't saw a copy of the contract.
Actually, the board had to approve the contract before it was given to him, sir.
I didn't know if it was all on that one, because you said you had to go back and verify something.
Okay. All right, so any questions, Mr. Minor? You okay with that?
I'm just gonna pull my lease file and I'm gonna communicate to the board what I know about it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Trash services, Mr. Cates?
Yeah, I had talked to, that's one reason I wish Mr. Ellis had have been here tonight. I'd had a couple calls about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and to be honest, I've been on this board 3 years, and I didn't know that they wouldn't pick trash up on the street, limbs, unless they were bundled up and tied up. I didn't know that.
They are not required to be bundled and tied, not meaning to interrupt. They're not required to be bundled and tied. They are required to be a certain length and width.
That's not what I was told.
Who told you that something different from that, sir?
I've had 2 or 3 citizens that told me that, and Mr. Ellis even mentioned it, because I said, well, we need a way to get that communicated. And he said that at one time, I wished he was here, that it was something he was doing like Somerville did when the electricity that weekend, that they notified everybody. And Mr. Ellis said that he had tried that at one time. It wasn't that expensive to get that type of information of what they do and don't do out to all the citizens. And I wished he was here, because I told him to bring that to the board with some kind of cost, that we could probably okay that if it was a better way to get communication out to what this is supposed to be. Today, I had a couple calls. One of them was Miss Evans, where they were doing the streets over in that area. She had her yard guy to bundle hers up and tied them. She laid them on the street. Her garbage can was there. But when they did the street, they took and threw them back up in the yard, which I guess they had to. I'm not fussing about that. But then when she went out to get them, she just picked them up and put them in her garbage can. And it was also some reports that in that cove down there, the garbage wasn't picked up yesterday, and it still hadn't been picked up today, and Miss Evans is still sitting there.
Okay, if we know that, we contact the trash service, and they typically will go back by there. But as far as the requirements and what the trash service does and does not do, I mean, there's a sheet, and it looks like you've got it, that every citizen gets when they sign up for their water, and then we'd actually mail that information out and put it on the utility bill when we first changed this contract approximately 4 years ago.
So it don't have to, as long as it's cut in 4 and 5 foot pieces, it don't have to be wrapped and tied and bundled?
Does not have to be bundled. Now, I will tell you, there's been a couple times the trash company has said that, and I've contacted their management and pointed them to the contract that said that does not require bundling. And some of their field folks will get confused because most of their municipalities are required to bundle. Our contract does not have that. We do not require it. And so that's why it's important for us to know when the citizen is told that, so that we can make it right.
I can't remember what the guy's name was. His disability lives over in that area. He called me one day, and I drove over to his house, and he had a pile in the front of, well, it was on his edge of his yard. They wasn't over 4 or 5 feet long, and it wasn't nothing over that big around, a little bigger than a silver dollar. And they refused to pick his up because it wasn't tied.
See,
So I'm confused. Do we need to have that in the, of course, you said the contract didn't run out till next year, but maybe that's something we need to look at, because you got people in Oakland that's not able to get out there and bundle and tie up stuff for these garbage people. But we don't want it laying on the street. We're trying to clean Oakland up, but yet we got limbs laying all over the street that they refuse to pick up.
See, that's why it's important that whether you call me or email me or call the front office, we've got one of our staff members that track these when they come in, and they immediately communicate with the trash service.
I called Miss Jenna and them the day that I got 2 calls.
Okay.
Mr. Ellis went over and took care of it, and that was some that they didn't pick up. It was like 3, was it 3, Jenna, I believe?
Yeah, that's where people are moving out of the
this is something different. This is next on the list. So then, she's like got ahead of me on this, but this is 2 or 3 times this has happened in Oakland where people have been evicted or renters are moving, just throwing stuff out on the street, and it sits there for 2 or 3 weeks. Well, I know the garbage people is not responsible to pick that crap up, but the town is not liable to pick it up either. So what can we do as a board to make sure that this don't sit there for 2 or 3 weeks, people rambling through it, scattering it all over the street, and then rats and stuff getting all in it that's laying there for 2 or 3 weeks? Is it something we can't do to stop that?
Yeah, we actually, since we've seen more of it over the last 2 months than we've seen in years, we actually have a plan put together that Public Works and Code Enforcement is aware of, to where when we see that, we'll first contact the homeowner and give them 48 hours, I believe it is, to get it cleaned up. If they don't, then Public Works will go out, we'll pick it up, and then we will turn around and charge them, I think it's $250 or $300, depending on how much it is. But we're not going to leave it laying there, but we can't pick it up unless we charge them back.
What's the time limit that we normally leave it laying?
Well, a lot of it depends on when we find out about it, but I don't want it there any more than a day or two, if at all possible. But when we call that homeowner, we have to give them a certain amount of time to get someone out there. So there is a plan that's been put in place. I guess since your last call up to the office, we all got together and that was discussed and it was put down so we can make sure it doesn't sit.
So let me get this straight. It does not have to be bundled and tied for them to pick it up, right?
As long as it's in the dimensions that
4 or
the
5 feet
requirements are,
long
it
and
does not have to be
over 4
bundled.
inches round, I believe that's the dimension.
It does not have to be tied, and I can show you in the contract at any
No,
time.
I take your word for it. You the one that saw the contract, but these trash people are telling them that they don't have to pick it up, and they refusing to pick it up.
Well, and myself, I've spoken to a couple different homeowners that had that issue, and when I called the trash service, they sent someone out that day to pick it up. But I will send a message tomorrow to ensure that they remind their staff that Oakland's contract is different than some of their other municipalities.
So if you call them tomorrow and they get with them starting next week, we shouldn't have that problem, right?
I would hope not, but again, keep in mind at times they do have drivers that fill in from other municipalities if someone's out sick, but we'd be positioned better for it not to happen. I mean, I don't want to tell you something that I'm not in control of.
Usually the whole crew wouldn't be out the same day though, would they?
Well,
You got a crew on a truck of like 3 probably, 2 and a driver, but what's the chance of all 3 of them being off at the same time?
I don't track it, I don't know, but I'll communicate with them, and if we continue to have this, as long as they get reported, then we can deal with it, because after so many of those come in, then I'll bump it up to the next layer of their management.
I was just curious, because I knew that the contract was coming up pretty soon, and I knew that something, before it was bidded on, needed to be settled on this picking that up. So since it goes another year, that answered that other question.
Okay?
I've got one more thing on trash services, if we could. I've noticed a few dead deer, real close proximities to our neighborhoods. And as you know, if you've listened at the county commission meetings, that we have a CWD problem in Fayette County. And I recommend that our Public Works Department remove these dead animals as soon as they're reported. I'll make sure I report them. But I don't think we should leave these dead deer in front of our neighborhoods. And, you know, people have dogs and they walk them and take them back in the house. I just feel like if we've got dead animals within the town limits, then we need to remove them as soon as possible. And I think we're letting them lay there too long.
No, if folks will let us know, in my understanding, I will confirm standard operating procedure is if they're called in or they're seen, they're picked up. Yeah, I will reiterate that and make sure, but the key is if we can get it reported in, it's a lot easier to pick
I
up.
thought the TWRA was supposed to test all deer. Are they just getting a sample on the road and leaving it? Man,
They take the
I don't
lymph
know.
nodes out, you know.
I don't know what they're doing, but there's some on the highway up towards Memphis and nobody's picking them up.
I'll confirm what the rules are. I would hope we could at least remove it and put it somewhere other than on the streets, but I need to confirm that because I don't know. Okay?
Skip may know.
Okay. Anything else on trash services? All right, last item under discussion, unfinished business.
Any of the board members have anything they'd like to discuss on anything that's been previously discussed by this board? I'm good.
Oh, where do we stand on getting our commissioners and county mayor and even the school board in this district together for a meeting? I know we brought this up for 3 or 4 months. The school superintendent should have been there, but I believe you told us that it was hard for him to break loose and get. Can we set up a meeting without him, with the commissioners is the one that votes on this stuff anyway?
Well, right now, the slowdown has been, the director of schools has told me to set a date. The county mayor has not been able to set one. He has forwarded to me some grants that he thinks will potentially help pay for the repairs of those bridges, of that bridge. And so I'm hoping within the next 2 weeks, hoping shortly after the Thanksgiving holiday, I gotta remember next week's a holiday, that we'll be able to secure some of his time. But
We have 3 county commissioners in this area, right?
Actually, 4.
4? Well, all 4 of them needs to be brought to the meeting.
You have Commissioner Powers, Commissioner Goodrow, Commissioner Reeves, and Commissioner Leggett that represents the neighborhood behind Brad's Barbecue.
That's Hickorywood.
when that was redistricted.
You're right, that little portion of that neighborhood.
So-
Well, it's Oakland. I don't wanna leave any residents out. You know,
So
if it's
since-
1 or if it's 100, I wanna include them.
Since they the one that votes on it, I think they should be at this meeting.
Well, I think they should at least be extended an invitation if they could come to come to what our concerns are. They're representing us, and like the Mayor Taylor's like you, he has a lot going on in the county, but these guys are our constituents that we rely on to represent us. So I think it's definitely that them and our school board members should be notified and invited, and if Mayor Taylor can come, he can come, and if he can't, our commissioners can take it back to the other members of whatever committee on the county commission that need to go in.
I just don't want the town to mess around and get fined by the state for something that we've overlooked for 3 years.
Okay, I will give the county mayor another opportunity, and if not, then I'll set a date and I'll invite the commissioners and director of schools.
The
And
commissioners should be invited to your meeting with the county mayors also, though.
right, well, let me rephrase that. If I get a date from him, I'll send it to all. If he can't give me a date, then I'll set a date and I'll forward that out.
Sound good?
Okay.
School board members as well?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on their unfinished business? That actually kind of takes care of the first old business. Again, I was just gonna report on that, so we will try to move forward and get that date set. Next item would be Resolution 1944. Have a motion to hear for approval, Resolution 1944, a resolution of the Town of Oakland adopting an ADA transition plan.
Motion to hear?
Motion by Vice Mayor Sutton. Do I have a second? Second by Alderman Cates. Discussion?
Make a motion to approve resolution 1944.
Okay, I've got a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Cates. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, continuing forward, agenda item number 11, new business. Resolution 1955. Can I have a motion to hear for approval, Resolution 1955, a resolution of the Town of Oakland to award the bid for a new test well.
Make a motion.
Motion by Alderman Cates. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Duncan. Discussion? Believe you should have the resolution and all of the bid information in your packets. Yes, sir. 6,200 is the amount of the recommended vendor.
I make a motion we accept Waterwell Solutions LLC's low bid of $6,200.
Got a motion by Vice Mayor Sutton to accept the bid from Waterwell Solutions LLC. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Rector. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, continuing forward, Resolution 1956. Can I have a motion to hear for approval, Resolution 1956, a resolution of the Town of Oakland to award bid for fire hydrant maintenance program.
Make a motion here.
Motion by Alderman Cates. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Rector. Discussion?
Is this a 3-year total for that on the low bid? Total for 3 years?
The far right column is the total, yes, sir. What it is, you'll see it's a progression. The first year's X, the second, the third, and then the total.
Total for the 3 is 112, it's 121.
The lowest bid, that is correct.
How long has it been since we had a contract?
We've never had a fire hydrant maintenance contract. This would be the first.
So the higher first-year price is because they're in such bad shape right now?
Needs some maintenance.
And so they figure it'll be cheaper to do it after they do it the first year, it'll be cheaper for them to upkeep it from the years past?
That was kind of my understanding from looking through the documentation that was.
What does this consist of them doing?
Making sure that they're all workable, and I believe it includes painting. I don't have the contract in front of me, but it's full maintenance.
It's not my contract or nothing, but they'll make sure they're serviceable. They'll flow test each plug to make sure that it's meeting the standard, for ISO. They'll flush the plug to make sure that it's clean, and then they'll keep servicing and painting. Just a thing on this, I get a lot of complaints, which I have no say over, how bad our fire hydrants look in neighborhoods.
I make a motion, we accept Rogers Hydrant Service, the low bidder for $121,840 for the 3-year fire hydrant maintenance bids.
Okay, got a motion by Vice Mayor Sutton to accept Rogers Hydrant Service. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Cates. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll continue forward. Resolution 57, have a motion to hear for approval, Resolution 1957, a resolution of the Town of Oakland to award the bid for wastewater chemicals.
Motion here.
Motion by Vice Mayor Sutton. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Cates. Discussion? Just as the board's looking through this, the reason it's important to select someone for these chemicals is because of our purchasing policy and the state policy. We are right at, if not over, dealing with one vendor, what's allowed without a bid. And so this should just allow us the best price and stay with the same vendor throughout the full year.
Make a motion, we accept the low bid from Hawkins Chemical.
Okay, so I've got a motion by Vice Mayor Sutton to accept Hawkins Chemical. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Rector. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, continuing forward. Resolution 1958. Have a motion to hear Resolution 1958, a resolution of the Town of Oakland to adopt the national motto.
Motion here.
Motion by Vice Mayor Sutton. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Rector. Discussion?
Yes, I'd like a little discussion on this, and first of all, I'd like to thank Commissioner Goodrow for introducing this resolution to the county commission when he did. I also would like to commend Commissioner Powers, which is in the audience tonight, that supported this resolution at the commission floor. I was at that meeting, and also Commissioner Reeves voted for it as well. I really thank y'all a lot, and I spoke with Mr. Goodrow. I didn't want to steal his thunder here. I wanted to allow him to get his resolution through the board before I brought it up in Oakland, because it was his idea, he introduced it, and I did not want to steal his thunder. I contacted Mr. Goodrow. He said, absolutely, Ken, if you can get it passed, take it to Oakland. Introduce it to Oakland. I don't care about that. I just want it done. And so, thank you, Commissioner Goodrow, for having this idea and giving Oakland the idea to to have Resolution 1958. I request that the mayor read this resolution before it's considered.
Okay. Resolution 1958, a resolution of the Town of Oakland, Tennessee, recognizing and reaffirming "In God We Trust" as the official motto of the United States, and support the display of the national motto on all town-owned buildings, schools, or on all marked first responder vehicles. Whereas "In God We Trust" became the United States national motto on July 30th, 1956, shortly after our nation led the world through the trauma of World War II. And whereas "In God We Trust" has been an integral part of our society since its founding, and whereas the words have been used on U.S. currency since 1864. And whereas the same inspiring motto is engraved above the entrance of the U.S. Senate chamber, as well as above the Speaker's rostarium in the U.S. House chamber. And whereas the state of Tennessee passed legislation that the motto be displayed in schools. Whereas in both war and peace, these words have been a profound source of strength and guidance for many generations of Americans. And whereas the Town of Oakland desires to display this patriotic motto in all of our town-owned and occupied buildings and on all marked first responder vehicles as a way of solemnizing public occasions, expressing confidence in our society, and displaying the source of our country's sustenance and protection, wisdom, strength, and direction. Now, therefore, let it be resolved. The Town of Oakland Mayor and Board of Aldermen does hereby resolve as follows. Section 1, the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the Town of Oakland officially recognize and reaffirm "In God We Trust" as the official motto of the United States, and as such determine that the historic and patriotic words of our national motto, "In God We Trust," shall be permanently and prominently displayed in town-owned and occupied buildings. In addition, support the display on all Town of Oakland first responder vehicles. Section 2, the resolution shall be entered into the book of original resolutions upon passage and adoption. And then it has, of course, the official motion was made by and that sort of thing. So that is the resolution.
I make a motion.
Excuse me.
Oh, yes, sir.
Before you, I like to say unto him, I served in 18 months, county commission. And, I know your presentation to those, of the 19. And the three, I call no name, but Jennings is 2 and 7. But it's a good thing that you have done. You have. And thank you for presenting it to them. And again, thank you.
I make a motion that we approve Resolution 1958. I'd like a roll call vote, please.
Okay, I've got a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Cates. Roll call vote. Alderman Duncan.
Yay.
Alderman Rector.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Sutton.
Yay.
Alderman Cates.
Yay.
Yeas have it. It is unanimously passed. We will move forward and see that it's done.
Mayor and Board, this isn't much, but it is something I want to give to the town to be temporarily used until there is a more appropriate and permanent sign that is displayed, whether it is in this building or your new building. But I'd like to present this to you guys until that's done.
Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Will you be around afterwards?
I
We
will,
can do a
yes.
quick picture right after the meeting,
Appreciate
if that's okay.
Thank you.
Good, gentlemen. We'll Continue forward, Resolution 1959. Can I have a motion to hear for approval, Resolution 1959? Resolution of the Town of Oakland to authorize the mayor to enter into a subdivision development contract for Burton Place Section D.
Make a motion to hear.
A motion by Alderman Cates. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Rector. Discussion? Again, just to confirm, this has been through planning. One of the stipulations of it moving forward in planning is a development contract in place, and Attorney Minor has reviewed and, to the best of my knowledge, approved this development contract.
Make a motion to approve.
A motion by Alderman Cates to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Duncan. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay, we will continue forward. It does pass unanimously. Resolution 1960, have a motion to hear Resolution 1960, a resolution of the Town of Oakland providing authorization to bid out the repaving of the Oakland Parks walkways.
Motion to review.
Have a motion by Vice Mayor Sutton. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Cates. Discussion? Gentlemen, just one point of information, along with this paving, there is one park that the county has secured a grant for, and they will be paying for that one park, but we do still have to go through the bidding process, just so you're aware of it. The other parks are in the budget as far as being able to do it once the bids come back in.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion from Vice Mayor Sutton to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Cates. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, we'll continue forward. Agenda item number 12, approval of invoices or credit apps. Do I have a motion to review invoices for payment?
Make a motion.
Motion by Alderman Cates. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Duncan. Gentlemen, you should have at your workstation, I believe there's 2 invoices on the list this month. Been a couple months since we've had any. And both of them fall out over the 45-day, which is why they're on here.
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion by Vice Mayor Sutton to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Rector. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Does pass. Agenda item 13, have a motion to adjourn.
Before we adjourn, can I ask a question about Resolution 1958 to the attorney? If there's a typo in there, can we correct that before we put that, or we need to do that by amendment? Could typos be corrected without an amendment?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
I saw that as I read through it, so we're just gonna fix it. Okay. Second by Alderman Duncan. All in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, and thank you.